All right. All right, part 2 of our geometry test 1 through 85 review. We're picking it up from question number 12, asking for measure of angle A. Can anybody in here tell me how we would find measure angle A? Dylan. All right, so he's saying 35 plus 115 divided by 2. Is that correct? All right, well, let's see. What's 35 plus 115? 150 divided by 2? 75 degrees. Check the bottom, see if he's correct. He's not. Oh. All right, so what we learn out of that is that might be an assumption. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing for us to see the wrong way to do it, right? You're on track with that it does involve these two things and dividing by 2. Zamira. Okay, so 115 minus 35 divided by 2. Okay, what's 115 minus 35? 80. What's 80 divided by 2? 40. So I think what you're probably used to seeing is something where like we had this and let's say 35 was there, right? We would add those two up to find that angle, right? This is a little different. So we subtract the minor arc from the major arc and divide by 2. So what we have here is we've got our major arc, our minor arc, add those up, divide by 2. That's going to give me that outside angle. Okay? All right. All right, number 13. Find the diameter of a sphere. All right, this is a really good question. I kind of hope this question is on the test because it pushes you to not only know the formula for the volume of a sphere, but how to apply information that's given on the other side of the equation, right? All right, so what is the volume of a sphere? What's my formula for that? Pi r cubed? You are right with the pi r cubed portion. That's not all. 4/3 pi r cubed. And we would normally say v equals 4/3 pi r cubed, except we can do what with v? Substitute in what? All right, and what are we trying to solve for? We're going to solve for r, but is that where I'm going to stay? Am I done at r? I'm going to multiply by 2 and get the diameter. Ultimately what we want to do with the equation that we see here is that we want to isolate r, correct? All right, so what might I do to go about doing that?
Multiply 3/4 to both sides.
Multiply by 3/4, okay? All right, multiply by 3/4. What's 7,776 times 3 divided by 4? Because 4/3 times 3/4 is going to cancel out, right? That'll be 1. $5,832 pi equals pi r cubed, okay? Now, we could divide by pi on both sides, right? Because this is all multiplication on the right-hand side. What happens whenever I divide by pi? Pi's cancel, okay? It's one of the saddest things in math whenever we cancel out pi. All right, so we have 5,832 equals r cubed, and I want just r, so I'm going to do what with 5,832? Cube root it. Okay, cube root of 5,832, 18 equals r, and a lot of people stop right there. 18 would be a multiple choice option. We want 18 times 2. What does the diameter equal? 36. 36. Very, very good. Okay. All right. Number 14. We can solve this system by graphing, and essentially in the end of it, they're going to be asking what is the x and the y value. What's the easiest? We could solve by graphing, but just so that we're seeing a math form of this, what would you do here, Haley? Okay, through what? What would you do those two equations to cancel them out? Add them together.
Or no, subtract.
Subtract. Okay, so she says subtract. The reason that we subtract is because that's a negative on the bottom, right? Are you sure you want to subtract? She did say add first. So that would have been the thinking, is to subtract. But because they're already opposites of each other, I'm going to add. Because if I end up subtracting, because if I subtract, I get minus a negative, which means I'm taking those x's plus each other, which means in that moment they don't cancel out. I actually get 2x. So adding them together will cause them to cancel. What's 3y plus 2y? 5y, and negative 12 plus 2, negative 10, y equals negative 2, and I want to find x. So let's plug that back in. So we could do that down here. Negative x plus 2 times negative 2 equals 2. What's 2 times negative 2? Negative x minus 4 equals 2. Do what with the 4? Add it. So I got negative x equals 6. What does x equal? Negative 6. Okay? So we get negative 6, negative 2 for the location where those two things cross. Okay? All right, next question goes to Miles. Okay. 5, use your calculator to find the acute angle measure of inverse sine 0.75. I'm going to start using my, well, I was thinking like game announcer.
Oh, you should do like a Good Morning Vietnam voice.
I don't know that I can really do that.
Good morning.
That's like that radio, like that shock jock radio thing. I don't know if I can pull that off. But I can do the TV, not necessarily sports, but like game show host voice. That's one of my favorites.
Come on down and answer number question.
Inverse sine 0.75. Time on the clock. What's your answer?
48.6.
48.6 degrees. All right, what's your answer for inverse cosine 0.5?
60 degrees.
What's that?
60 degrees.
60 degrees, he says. Inverse tan 4.1.
76.29.
76 point, remember, to the nearest 10.
3.
76.3 degrees. Zamira, check that answer down at the bottom of the page. Let's see what he's won, if anything.
Survey says.
Ding.
Zamira says it's good. You won absolutely nothing. I'm sorry.
It's like that.
Thank you for the clapping in the studio audience. You're doing fantastic.
But can we please not give out any answers while the
Please keep it down in the back. Find theta to the nearest degree. All right. Do we have any volunteers? Volunteers from the studio audience. Dylan Nickel wants to try his shot again. Give it another shot, Dylan. What would you do to find theta? Trigonomic function. Which one would you use? You would use sine. All right. So we have sine on the board. Sine what?
56 over 35.
56 over 35. Just use sine? Go ahead and give it a shot. No, please keep. Oh, he amends his answer to inverse sine. Inverse sine. 56 over 35. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse for our viewers at home. 56 being opposite of theta. 35. 35, interesting.
Is it 30? Oh, it's 33. I can't see from back here.
It is neither, well, yes, 33 is adjacent.
Okay.
35 is nowhere on the board.
65.
He, again, changes his answer to 65. With every answer change, the rewards dropped by $10,000. Unfortunately, this was a $20,000 question, and he amended his answer twice. To level out at 0, what is inverse sine 56 over 65? What's that? 59 degrees. Let's see our options on the board. What's that answer? Is it 59 degrees? Studio audience says 59 degrees. He breaks even with $0. Thank you.
So let's find out who next wants to
We're
become a millionaire.
we're going to break for commercial. And we're back. We have, let's see. I don't know. It looks like this is vectors, even though they don't have correct vector notation for vector u. But the question is vector u plus vector v. For u, vector -7, -8, and vector v, 8, 4. Choosing to try to redeem himself and okay, we're going to move on to somebody else. Haley Wiseman. We'll come back to Dylan.
She looked at the edge, like, see it on her thing.
Yeah, bud.
She's scrolled up.
All right. We're going to make this a team sport. Haley and Dylan. For your entire grade this semester. Vector U plus vector V. How would I say? You want to come up here and actually draw this on the board for me? Come on down.
Yeah, like on the prices, right? There's like
I need like the music in here. All right, everybody's going to see what you're writing on the board. This will be all over YouTube.
Okay.
Oh my.
It's less than.
A small alligator eating a -7.
Get off the stage.
It's 2 alligators sharing a piece of spaghetti.
You caught my question. That was the easiest one.
This is like.
A inverted infinity sign.
But Dylan's gonna mess it up. No pressure though. You're gonna tell them what you're doing. Split it in half. You're wrong.
Gosh, dang it. Gotta go home now.
All right, let's check the answer with Zamira. Zamira is like my Vanna in here. Is that answer correct? Vector, the component form of the summation of those vectors is 1, -4. Yeah, we'll explain it. So what we want to be careful with here is to add only the x value. So -8 plus 4 is -4. -7 plus 8 is 1. That is our vector component form. Very good. There is another method for doing this. If you might remember the parallelogram method, but it's stupid. So we're not going to do that. Please just let me. Thank you. Number 18. All right. Holy moly. We're losing it. Having some technicals up in the booth. Give the coordinates of the image of the triangle after a dilation centered at the origin and with a scale factor of 0.5. Draven Barton. How might we go about finding the new location based upon the dilation of position H, otherwise known as H prime?
find the coordinates of it and dividing them.
All right, so Draven started off by, please stop throwing paper before I get really ticked. Thank you.
Now you're gonna beat it. Paper. It's gonna shred itself.
I didn't even mention the names. All right, so you're right, Draven. We do want to start with the coordinates of what H are, okay? Not like human resources, but what H is, okay? What are the coordinates of H? 2, 1. And what did you say you wanted to do with those coordinates?
It's a scale factor of 0.5, we divide it by 2.
All right, so you're going to take each 2 and 1 and divide it by 2? Okay, or multiply by 1/2, correct? Okay, so what are the coordinates of H prime?
1 and 0.5.
1 and 0.5. Very good. All right, let's see. David, your team has opted to find the coordinates of F prime. It sounds like a planet in a distant
Well,
yet unknown galaxy. That's a yes.
We're going to commercial.
That brings us to our next segment. Messages brought to you by Beano. Just take Beano and then it'll be no gas.
that wasn't a fart cut commercial.
I may need to go wipe something. All right, David. It's all part of the game. Can you concentrate?
So since F is 6'5", multiply them both by 1/2, get 3 and 2.5.
3 and 2.5. Okay. That actually smells way more than I thought it would.
You literally broke paper.
All right.
And Haley is
Brady Sayer to finish out his table here. G. Find G prime. Coordinates of G are what?
10, 1.
10 and 1. 10 and 1. 5 and 0.5. H prime, F prime, G prime. Zamira is giving me the head nod. Yes, that's the answer. So whenever we're talking about a dilation, we're given positions on a coordinate plane. We want to multiply the individual coordinate elements by the scale factor. Next time you're in a really serious situation, I want you to think back to this moment. Funerals, weddings, any place that needs to be really, really quiet. I want you to think back to this moment. I wish I was a hypnotist and I could tell you that. Number 19. Haley, if you can breathe. Number 19. Solve the proportion. 9/17 equals 9 over 2W. Come again?
Okay, so you're going to cross multiply and get 18W equals 153.
18W equals 153.
C.
And
Okay, and then you're going to divide by 18. You get 17 over 2.
W equals 17 over 2. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So simply cross multiply and divide. I don't know. I think we might say that this is the funnest review we've ever had. Identify the diameters in circle J. Circle J. Liz, thank you for volunteering. Name those diameters. DU and XE. Okay, DU and XE. Is she correct? Yes, she is. Now, if we wanted to talk about chords, would DU and XE be on that list?
No.
Chords. Yes, they would be. A diameter is simply a chord that crosses through the center of the circle. Now, if we wanted to talk about chords, would we include any other lengths that besides these?
Yes.
Yes. We would include, you said all of them? DX is correct. DE is correct. XU. Anything that included J would be wrong because it's going to be a segment. If it stops at J, it's not a chord or a diameter. All right, number 21. Number 21, find the missing coordinates for the vertex of the rhombus. A quiet pause break here. People diligently consider, thinking. Head scratching is happening. Pencils are writing. Quandary faces are being made.
Night before Christmas, but
Not even a stir. Could hear a pin drop. What are the thoughts about this? What are we looking for here? Looking for X and Y coordinates, right? But are we given numbers? No, no numbers. Okay? Do we, what's the easiest coordinate to find?
G.
Zamira. The Y coordinate. Why is the Y coordinate easy to find? Because it's going to maintain the same Y coordinate as what we saw here, correct? Right? Because it's a rhombus. It's because it's a rhombus, it means it's a parallelogram, right? If this is straight across here, staying on the x-axis, then this is going to be straight across here. So we do know that we're going to get D for our Y coordinate. Very good. All right. X coordinate is a little bit tougher. Okay. David?
Since it has like C.
Right. So we know we know C goes to this length right here, correct? Okay.
Length of A.
Right. And A goes to this point right here. This is A units from here to here. So it would have to be A units from here to here, correct?
Yeah, so it would be A plus C.
A plus C or C plus A. Right, which I think, Zamira, you had said as well. So we should get A plus C for our X coordinate and D for our Y coordinate. Okay, so it requires a little bit of abstract thinking. All right, 22. 22. For a line M and a point not on the line P, there's exactly one line through P that is perpendicular to M. To move this statement indirectly, assume that there is not exactly one line through P perpendicular to M. What two cases need to be explored to find a contradiction? I can help you out here. So what they're saying is that we're looking to solve this through a contradiction. So if we say that there is exactly one line through P to M that is perpendicular to M, what two other possibilities have to be proven incorrect? If we say exactly one. What's that? Okay, yes. Miles said we need to see if there is multiple lines, more than one line, right? So we would draw multiples, right? Are any of those perpendicular? So the first thing that we want to prove is there more than one? Okay? There's one other thing that we have to consider. Less than one or none. Is there none? Zamira, read the answer for us.
1, there is no line through P perpendicular to M. 2, there are 2 or more lines through P perpendicular to M.
Okay. So she said that there is either no lines through point P perpendicular to M, or there are 2 or more lines through P that are perpendicular to M. Billy, come on in. It's not locked. You're just that weak. Oh, boom. Hey, Billy, I don't have anything to prove. You're the one who couldn't open the door.
Shots fired.
Still happening. All right, question number 23. Figure STUV is a parallelogram. What is the value of x? 5x minus 22. 3 halves x plus 34. It is a parallelogram. What do we know about the diagonals of a parallelogram? In a rectangle, you would be right. She said that they are equal to each other. In a rectangle, diagonals are congruent. But what do we know about the diagonals of a parallelogram? No, in a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular to one another. They're what? Miles is correct. In a parallelogram, the diagonals bisect each other. So what do we know about the individual segments of a diagonal in a parallelogram? They are equal to each other, Marissa says. All right, knowing that they are equal to each other, how might we begin to solve this question? 5x minus 22 equals 3 halves x plus 3/4, she says. Now, if I wanted to avoid using fractions, is there anything I could do to this equation? Multiply it by a common denominator. What would be the common denominator here? 4. Somebody yelled out randomly. All right, now we have to rework the equation. What's 5 times 4? 20. 20x. 22. Negative 22 times 4. Negative 88. 3 halves times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. What's 12 divided by 2? 6x. Okay? What's 3 times 4? Divided by 4? Did somebody say 3? 3 times 4 is 12. Divided by 4 is 3. All right. To me, that makes it a little bit easier to work with. It does actually apply more steps to it. But here, I think it's a little easier to solve. We can begin by doing what? Getting x by itself. Right? When people say that, it always makes it sound like you're going on a date with x. Let's get x alone.
It sounds like you're trying to kidnap x.
I'm just disturbed that that's immediately where your head went. It's like if I wanted to kidnap x, I'd have to get x alone first. Subtract 6x. All right, what is 20x minus 6x? 14x. 14x. What do I want to do with the negative 88? Add it to the other side. Add 88 to 3. 14x equals what? 91. What do I want to do with 14? What does x equal? It does not reduce? Is it just 91 over 14? What's the answer at the bottom of the page? 6.5. Clap, 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 clap. Very good. You guys sound like you're trying to bring Tinkerbell back to life. Find the perimeter of triangle ABC. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. Marissa, thank you. All right, we know that AB is 4.1. We know angle A is 60 degrees. We want to find the perimeter. All right, you want to go with tangent 60, okay, equals x over 4.1. Is there an easier way to maybe do this? Yeah, we could use it as a 30, 60, 90, where we're seeing that opposite of 30, which is representative of 1, is 4.1. What would the hypotenuse be? 4.1 times 2 is what? Is it 8.2? 8.2. All right, what is BC going to be? 4.1 what? Radical 3. What do I need to do with these numbers in order to find the perimeter? Add them all up. 4.1 plus 8.2 plus 4.1 times radical 3. So you're going to go ahead and add 4.1 to 8.2, is that right? So you're doing 12.3 plus 4.1 radical 3. Okay, we want our answer to the nearest tenth.
Nice.
19.4. Checking the answer. 19.4 centimeters is correct. Number 25. Studio audience is getting a little out of hand. For an art project, Anna needs to spray paint a soup can on all sides, including the bases. The can is 7 inches tall and it has a radius of 4 inches. Find the area to be painted to the nearest square inch. What shape, for 2 points, is a can? Particularly a soup can.
Cylinder. Sphere.
David, it's a cylinder. What dimensions of a cylinder are we trying to solve?
Square.
Surface area.
Surface area of a cylinder. What is the formula for 2.5 points of the surface area of a cylinder? Zamira. That is correct, and unfortunately, that's all our time. Please come back, continue our game.